What I have today, so we'll get to this. Back in 2012, I started a blog, and I started it in March of 2012. And this entry, it's called What We Leave Behind, is from March of 2012. I set out with this lofty um, intention of having a weekly blog, and it lasted from March to April. And this is one where I'd basically given up. I wasn't going to write anything because out of frustration, I was like, I can't even think of anything. And this is the result. I have a little. I'm looking. I'm just looking. You can see here. I'm just looking at my blog page on the internet. And I wrote a little introduction to it. And I was going to skip it, but I was reading it just before church today. I said, I'm gonna go ahead and read that introduction too. So this one, I'm talking a little bit more about stuff not related to this because this one is a little shorter than the last one I gave. Probably going to be under 10 minutes, I'm thinking. So anyway, it's called What We Leave Behind. And I introduced it with, this should be interesting. So much for the quote schedule quote I had established for this blog. Choose topic by Friday or Wednesday. Think and make notes Thursday and Friday. Write it Saturday morning. As of 11 p.m. last night, which was Friday, I had no topic and was going to post no blog today. I had a few followers that were looking forward to my blogs each week for that first month or so. Anyway, I was going to post no blog today, but apparently my brain had other ideas. I woke up at 3 a.m. and by 4:30 had, quote, written the bulk of what follows thanks to my handy voice notes feature on my phone. I do that a lot. I just wake up in the middle of the night, hit record and talk into my phone, and it types the notes for me. And then I wake up the next morning and see what the hell I came up with in the middle of the night. Anyway, I went to bed last night, frustrated and wondering to myself, why do I write that thing anyway? That got me wondering about the idea of creating in general, in all forms: painting, sculpting, writing, music. With these musings whirling in my head, I drifted off to sleep somewhere around midnight. 3 hours later, my brain woke me up. Psst, hey, here's what I think, and wouldn't let me go back to sleep till I had written most of this. So don't blame me for what follows, blame my brain. All right. What is it that we leave behind when we die? What legacy or impact will we be remembered for? If we're lucky, we will leave behind a child or two or more who will have fond memories of us as parents. Maybe a few grandchildren will have known who we were and can tell stories about us. And perhaps a few of us will even have great grandchildren born soon enough for us to be a part of their lives. But after that, memory of ourselves is good for about 3 generations at best. For most people, the experience of a great grandparent is their first encounter with frailty and mortality. I'm not saying my great grandparents weren't wonderful people or that they didn't have a powerful and positive effect on my parents or my aunts and uncles. But just being realistic, I remember only one of my great grandmothers, my great grandparents, a great grandmother. I remember a sweet but feeble woman in a wheelchair in a nursing home. I remember her knotty spotted hands, her wispy white hair, and the eyeglasses she wore. I cannot recall her voice or any words she ever spoke to me. I have a vague recollection of a story or two my mother told me, but they are distant and uncertain. And when I'm gone, even those distant, uncertain memories will fade. My own sons have never heard anything about her. For them, she may as well have never existed. This is sad, and I'm sorry if it offends any of my older relatives, but it's true. There's nothing wrong with fading into oblivion. There's nothing wrong with living a life that for future generations could just as well have never happened. Untold billions have lived such lives and will continue to do so for unseen generations to come. But for some individuals, this is not good enough. Some people are driven to leave a mark, a positive mark on the world, and thereby be remembered for long after they are gone. We call these people artists. In thinking over this and rereading this again recently, I realized how limiting it is to focusing just on artists, but it's what I came up with, so I'm moving forward. Anyway, what is it that drives these men and women to create? I don't know that there is a single satisfactory, all-inclusive answer, but I know that one possible explanation is that they hope to cheat death. They hope to cheat death. Creating something beautiful and lasting is one way to take hold of eternity and secure oneself a place in the collective memory of future generations. Artists are stereotypically considered frightened people, uncomfortable with the world, often isolated from society, psychologically, if not physically. And why shouldn't they be overly conscious as they are of mortality? Many great artists and great thinkers in general seem to have a Thanatos syndrome, a keen awareness from an early age of the reality and significance of death. And many of them get started early fending it off by creating vestiges and mementos of themselves. That's fine and good for artists, but I'm not an artist. So why the hell am I writing this? You say you are an artist, so what does it have to do with you? You say that you are not an artist. Sorry, you are not an artist. What does it have to do with you? It's about being remembered. If that is not important to you, then you can stop reading if you've made it this far. When we create works of art or bits of poetry or leave noble and beneficial ideas behind, if it's only in the form of stories we write about ourselves, then we shape and create the memory and the image generations after us will hold in their minds. Not only do we ensure our immortality, but we also are able to choose the form of that immortality. We can leave behind a positive memory and a positive impression of ourselves. That is as close to a real heaven as I can possibly imagine. And I put heaven in quotation marks. Dwelling in the minds of future generations as a happy thought, as someone worthy to be remembered, as an angel of existence and not a monster, or worse than a monster, someone not worthy of remembering at all. This is an existence I find personally hard to accept. Even the monsters, from bad parents to genocidal dictators, serve a purpose by holding a mirror of our possibilities up to ourselves so that we know what we should not be. Those who leave no memory behind, neither angels nor monsters, have done nothing for humanity or themselves. They may have impacted only one generation, maybe two. Not that that is not a worthy life, but I want to live longer than that. I want my influence and my impact and my memory to extend beyond the life and memory of my own grandchildren. How do you want to be remembered? No matter how noble or worthy or good a person you are, your memory will fade with the passing of your own children and grandchildren. And who is to say that that memory is what you want to linger? What do your children know about your own childhood? A few stories you told them? It is for you to record and put into permanent form the memories and impressions of your own life. You may not call yourself an artist, but you are creative. Don't tell me you're not. If you are breathing with a semi-functional brain and have the use of your hands and voice, you can leave something behind that's stronger than memory. It's all about being creative and leaving something permanent behind. Memories are not trustworthy enough. No one can express you as well as you. No one lived your life and felt your feelings and thought your thoughts. Create the memories you want people to have of you, be it in writing, painting, or music, or some other medium that will last longer than your flesh and bones. It doesn't have to be something great, but it should be something lasting. What stories do you want told about you when you're gone? Well, write them. What did you see with your own eyes when you looked out at the world? Paint those visions for future generations to see. What is the melody that sums up your secret self? Compose it and record it. Don't have the talent? Learn it, develop it. I'm 43 years old, now 52. That's young, but it's old enough to think my time has passed. That's a bunch of crap. It's never too late to get started creating your legacy. I don't care if you're 60, 70, or 100. I'm telling you, if you want your great, great, great grandchildren to know who you were and what you thought and how you felt, it's up to you to show them or tell them. Too late, you say? You're still alive, aren't you? As a teacher, I'm in a privileged position to have an influence on future generations. I'm proud of that, and I take it very seriously. I cherish my job and the responsibility that comes with it. But influence and memory are two different things. I may make an impact, but I want a legacy. My students will remember who inspired them, and they will teach their students about me. After that, I'm history, because the next generation of teachers won't be talking about me. They'll be talking about their teachers, some of whom are my students. By leaving a permanent record of myself, even if it's only this blog, I'm doing something, however small, to seal my memory for more than a generation or two. Is that vain? Maybe. Maybe I should be satisfied with knowing that within 2 generations after me, I'll be nothing more than a name on a few public records, records that nobody will bother looking up. To me, that's scary. Leaving tangible records of ourselves is what artists do. And it's what we should all do and can do. No matter how small or simple a single poem, a clay bowl, a simple landscape painting, it can be something that 100 years from now, some distant relative can hold and look at and know something about you. For that moment, you are with them again, sharing your life with them, whispering to them, instructing them, inspiring them to do the same. You may think you lack talent or your contribution is small, but it's something and it matters. Be worthy of being spoken of after you're gone. Be someone who people will want to write your biography. And as protection or insurance against not having your biography written, write it yourself while you're still here. Your autobiography, if decently written, sincere, and perhaps entertaining, could be the legacy you leave behind. You love telling stories to your children and your grandchildren. Write them down and thereby tell them to your great, 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 great grandchildren and beyond. And if your life to this point has not been decent, sincere, entertaining, then get to work on that. Memories created for us by artists and writers are sometimes more real than actual memories. Many of the people I admire died long before I was born. I never met any of them. I've never met but William Faulkner, Vincent van Gogh, Mozart, William Shakespeare, James Joyce, Salvador Dali, Emily Dickinson, Miguel de Cervantes, Pablo Picasso, Virginia Woolf, Beethoven, Geoffrey Chaucer. Some of them are more real and more alive to me than my own great grandmother. I'm not saying I'm equal to any of those men or women or could ever be. But if I died today, I know that somewhere down the road, someone will read Why Read Literature or A Challenge or Why Do You Teach? These are other blogs that I had written. Or Not Too Long and Not Too Offensive. That's a fun one. Anyway, and for that moment, as they're reading those blogs, even if I'm long gone, I will be alive again and speaking to them. I don't believe in an afterlife. I hold that in common with my Anglo-Saxon ancestors. We still have Beowulf today because of it. If there is an afterlife, I like to think that people will someday be sitting around and that I will be conscious of them doing so. Reading something I wrote, talking about it and talking about me, perhaps even this blog. This blog, which I have now left behind. Thank you for listening.